Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. Um, this week we have Alan from Kashi. We have a pretty awesome guest this week. Thanks everybody for joining us. We also have Roger.
How y'all doing?
Hey Roger,
Got,
how are you?
got
Nice to
Marty.
meet you.
Hello.
We got Hogmaster.
How's everybody going?
And we got Fish Ganchikai.
Shit, I got bumped to the back of the bus. What's going on, everybody?
And- I have a couple of quick announcements. If you're interested, I'll be speaking at the Aquaponics Association meeting, which is the first week in November. If anyone's coming to that, I'm going to do a talk on aquaponic cannabis, which will be pretty fun. And then we will also, Ken from Ouroboros will be there, as well as Charlie Schultz will also be there. They were on the show last week. So if you're interested, definitely check that out. I think they still have tickets available. Alrighty. Also, if you guys are around this weekend and you're in the Portland area, make sure you make it up to the Do Grows Cup. Marty and I will both be there, and we're gonna have a good time. And yeah, it's been interesting trying to get there, and some funny stuff has happened to me because of it, but it's okay.
How far away from Portland are you still?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm in Half Moon still.
Yeah, you've made no progress.
No, it's all good. We're leaving like first thing in the morning. So. Well, it's only like 12 hours. It's only 12 hours from. All right, yeah. So,
Cool.
But yeah, I have a bunch of cool stuff going on, and it'll be fun. So, lastly, we have the online and in-person aquaponic cannabis class on the 21st and 22nd. In person at Ouroboros online. That's with me and Marty for the online, and in person as well. It'll be a pretty cool class. There's a lot of cool people coming to this class this time, so I think everyone will really enjoy it. So thanks a lot, Alan, for joining us this week. We're going to tell people a little bit more about what you do and a little bit about Kashi and what it is.
Oh, okay. Sorry guys, it's been a long day already. I do solid state fermentations that can work to supply your garden with probiotics, the prebiotics to keep them happy and alive, and help you increase your nutrient density at the same time by providing plenty of trace minerals, vitamins, minerals, things like that for your garden.
Awesome.
Okay.
Now, are these like a powder that's like top dressed, or is it something you do with a tea, or how is it delivered to the system?
Well, Bokashis they're a multi-purpose type probiotic that can be done by just about anyone. You start with a quality inoculant, or if you need to produce or can produce your own IMOs and your own lactic acid bacteria, then you could use your own inoculant. But we just take a substrate like in our, for instance, organic certified hard red winter wheat bran, and we use a barrel and we mix it up with trace minerals. And in our case at Kashi, we use a human grade multivitamin mineral complex and fresh juice beets, EM1, mix that up to around 60 to 65% humidity content, pack it in the barrel, ferment it for around 2 weeks minimum, and then you can go ahead and dry it. And what it's going to do is just going to prolong the shelf life of our favorite bacterial strains, at least. It's very hard to keep them, in the fluid for more than a couple years. But we could keep them in a bokashi in a controlled environment for years on end. Maybe I would say safely 7 years.
And just out of curiosity, when you were talking about the lactose mentioned in IMO, now for myself, when I hear IMO, I think it's an abbreviation for in my own opinion. But what is it in this case?
That would be indigenous microorganisms. So many of our people are very fond of their own microorganisms that are well accustomed to the growing environment or their locale. And what we're really talking about is using microorganisms to outcompete pathogenic microorganisms or probiotic microorganisms. Um, the probiotics like lactobacillus and yeast and things that have been used for centuries and for just about ever, as far back as we can go in our written history, for fermenting foods.
Nice. So by outcompeting, you're basically saying all those good bacteria take up all the rooms that are available, and it puts up like a no vacancy sign for all the bad stuff.
No, I wouldn't say that. Kind of. But what it would do is it would keep those pathogenic microorganisms at the proper ratios. Like just you and I eating or ingesting probiotics, we never would want them to kill out, for instance, like all the candida that's in our own bodies, because the candida has a purpose. It just is out of control in many people. And, we have pathogenics, microorganisms and bugs and things in our, in the cannabis industry, of course, that are oftentimes, Great Dane burped. They get out of proportion when we keep everything very clean and go the route, that the synthetic fertilizer regimes or just modern agriculture would take us. It opens the door. It's why we have to use so many pesticides, because the things that in nature would have kept those pests or those pathogens, under control, they're not there. And so we have to put those things in our gardens or in ourselves.
Awesome. Have you experimented with like what kind of other ingredients have you also experimented with your lactobacillus ferments? Have you found anything else that ended up particularly interesting or noteworthy?
Well, we started out just making a normal EM bokashi using, wheat bran and rice bran. And where our group came from, the Probiotic Farmers Alliance came from, was we said to the most notable growers that we could find and that we knew, if you were going to make one of these bokashi ferments for your garden, what would you put in it? And so after trials and tribulations, we came up with the recipe that we stick to now. So I guess if I was going to answer you, I would say the most surprising thing that we put in there would be a fully human grade multivitamin mineral complex.
That's awesome. One of the things that I talk about on the show pretty often and recommend to a lot of people that I talk to, especially new growers, is the probiotic wellness garden. That is obviously a project that you've been close to, I would say, or been the pioneer of in many aspects. Do you want to take a minute to talk about what that is? Because it's also kind of what we're touching on here in terms of having, the controlled inputs that you want. Like if you could just, take a pot, what would you want to put into it to get the best results? And I think, that's kind of what you guys have done and dialed in to a point where pretty much anybody can fill this stuff into a box and put a plant in it and get decent results, which I think is great for especially for new growers coming into it as medical patients. It allows them to start producing for themselves right away.
Yeah, if you're really into living soils, a sub-irrigated planter is where, like my friend Rev Rebsky, and I, and many of us have ended up at the end of the trail using sub-irrigation. And most of us have found that, it was the answer for farming to our ancestors in many cases too, whether it be farming methods like hugelkultur, which might have existed at earlier points, or alongside hugelkultur, things like Cherokee mound farming, or even the technology that was, behind what they call the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Today, right now, as we speak, there are archaeologists that are still digging up entire fig farms in that region, or what the region we thought it was, that that are sub-irrigated. And it just makes sense. Of course, none of our ancestors that were wise would have top watered if they were living in a desert region.
Right. Just because of lack of success, probably. Like out of necessity, they needed to do something different, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, and those people were also very good at fermentation. That their skills were probably far beyond ours to come to mass scale fermentation, whether it be beer or like Russian kvass, any of those drinks that are a lot of them are lactic acid bacteria based. They were the kings of kind of like low alcohol beverages like that.
Right. And again, out of necessity, right? Because lack of refrigeration and being in the desert and all that kind of stuff, you have to be able to conserve what you have, and that's what they did.
Yeah, I suppose they were masters at it. I mean, we about hardly going out in the desert and growing right now. You structure to make that happen.
Right. So the probiotic wellness garden, like we mentioned that, and do you have any other projects like that you want to take a little bit of time to talk about? Or I know you're super swamped right now with Grow Kashi and trying to expand into some more stores, and I think the PFA group, 20-some thousand now, right? 25,000, I think, getting ready to hit, right?
Yeah, I think we're just coming up on 25,000 members, and we were talking today about what we would do to celebrate, what kind of contest we might have again. Normally it's who has the best picture of mycelium contest or something, but we'll have to, as a group, come up with what we're going to do now. I got lucky with the probiotic wellness gardens. My partners that saw what I was doing online and what we were doing as a group got together and helped to market the thing. And so it's been popular enough that Central Garden Distribution and Supply and Time have picked it up, and we're talking with Sunlight currently. So yeah, that I had no idea that we would be first to market with a basically a ready to run garden in a box.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm proud that we may be working with the Steiner School in Sacramento fairly quickly here, and helping to do a curriculum for agriculture, like biomimicry in agriculture, which is just, that box is it's just a representation of nature and how it works, with the mycelium underneath of down and intelligently delivering what it wants and when it wants it to the plant that it's living in symbiosis with. It's really, when you see the wonderment in a child's eyes when they pull the plastic cover back on the box and they see what, before we would have thought that was just mold, and to know and to learn a kid at those levels how nature works. I feel like we're getting to these kids and teaching them natural agriculture before, and I don't like to call names, but before people like High Times to them, and they see the fancy ads and they think that you have to have the 7 to 12 part fertilizer regime or you can't possibly grow, great cannabis or whatever they're growing.
Right. Like it costs everybody to grow, like so much, like it just seems like such a scam in the long run, like even if it works or doesn't work, like just the excess amount of money spent in order to make a profit is irritating at best. And then on top of that, one of the things you guys talk about a lot in the PFA is the way that they deliver those nutrients as well, and the lack of beneficial runoff. It is a major issue, especially on large scale, and I think kind of the concept of what you want to do is remediation, and something you seem to touch on over and over again. You have your Grow Kashi bags in the creek. You want to talk about remediation for a minute? I know it's one of the things that you like to touch on.
Well, I'm in a way, I'm kind of one of those conspiracy guys. But I know the conspiracies really happen and have throughout history. And I feel like if we were to keep on farming using these fairly new methods taught to us with all these fertilizers that are, building up in our creeks, our lakes, and even our oceans now, that there might be a point where they could actually make a valid point and take our right to farm away from us. And a lot of people are like, yeah, right. But, there are acts that have almost made it through Congress and such where we to farm. Can you imagine not being able to go out on your front lawn or your back lawn or your rooftop if you had to and grow something to eat, to lose a right that's at that level? So I figured, well, if what we did in the dairy industry, which was use the lactic acid bacteria runoff from the corn silage that we covered to help to bioremediate the heavy metals in the cow manure that would end up in the lagoons from, because, they get a lot of growth hormones pumped into them and pharmaceuticals, antibiotics especially, and they build up in the bottom of the manure lagoons and it becomes a major problem. We found out that we were remediating it with the beneficial runoff if a silage pit was done right. And I thought when I came into this industry, well, why don't we do the same thing, get into and adopt beneficial runoff as a way to ward people off if they came and tried to take our right to farm away from us. Because if we as farmers aren't solving this problem, who's going to?
Right. I mean, it's definitely not going to get regulated into place, right? That's doesn't seem to. They don't have any interest in.
Well, we can count on our government to take care of us.
Yeah, you do that. That's sarcasm from Fish, by the way.
That's huge sarcasm. I hate our government right now. It's such a pile of shit. Although I'm loving the footage of Trump doing, free throws with the paper towels. That was probably one of the better things I've seen in a while.
It's funny. I'll say that. I don't know.
He just assumes that all Puerto Ricans are cleaning ladies, apparently.
No, my favorite's when he was outside that person's house. It's just a total wreck. And he tells them, have fun.
Yeah. Fucking douchebag.
Yeah, that's just more political theater, I suppose. Like, what are you going to do? I mean, I didn't vote for him. I don't want him there. You know what I mean? Like, at some point, I just stopped watching it. And besides that, I don't really know what else to do. Like, I'm tired of worrying about whether or not we're going to go to war with North Korea. Like, I got shit to do. So, like,
Well,
I know
so
probably
just watch the remake of Red Dawn and you'll be ready for it.
right. Like, whatever. I'm so not prepared right now. If they drop a nuke, I'm just dead. I'll go to Alan's house, live in a shipping container greenhouse.
Yeah, so Alan, do you want to talk about that? You have some pretty cool greenhouses.
Good segue, Steve.
I've been kind of not talking about here because I talked about them for the last 2 years and they come visit me all the time. We never got in much trouble or anything. Matter of fact, we never got in any trouble. But it adds up, man, when you see people coming on pistols drawn. Like I have my dogs, my Great Dane dogs and all, and I can't imagine them getting shot down, how we would react to that. So this year we just didn't really publicize many gardens. Of course, we have our normal gardens because really there's only a couple people that would that I would even like trust that they grew some decent smoke correctly for us. There's more every day, I'll say that, but right now I feel like it should just be like working on making sure your own farm can help you pay your way, because have you guys seen what's happened to the grocery prices over the last couple of years?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Whole Foods prices just came down.
You're growing your own food's better than printing money.
I didn't hear that.
Growing food's worth like printing money, he said. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Save
Totally.
$100 a month on your growing your own produce. Yep, sure.
Absolutely.
Best veggies I've ever had came from my own backyard. That's for damn sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I have. I started growing food before grew cannabis in aquaponics. It wasn't until I grew tomatoes and big tomatoes and red, healthy, and lots of them. And we weren't even doing the dual root zone stuff then. And so I stopped listening to all of my grower buddies that told me aquaponics was going to be terrible for growing in, and it just was going to be larky and terrible.
Everything's there. I mean,
yeah. Didn't make any sense to me. Like, it was the same people that would because I mentioned I spent a lot of time in the Redway Garberville area. Some different growers in that area that do things a lot of different ways. And some of my friends down there, that was kind of the thing to do, was build weird indoor grow rooms. I had friends that made like octagon grow rooms and all these different things with vertical lights in the middle and all these different setups and stuff. And they would go through all this work, and they would have these fancy hydro systems, and they would have to they'd have to clean out the tank like every 5 days or something like that. And they all had these regimens that they would go through, and in there mixing with all their bottles and all this stuff, and they would act like all of that was no problem. But if you had to supplement aquaponics like even this much, it was just like too much work. That's just too much work. I got to feed the fish and pour in another bottle of stuff. Like, that's just too much. And I couldn't figure out how is that more work when you're pouring everything into this other system and cleaning it multiple times a month? And I drain my tank and maybe rinse it out once a year.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, here in the Emerald Triangle, sometimes trying to tell a grower that's maybe made a couple $100,000, some kid, maybe a kid who's made $1 million already, right? Trying to tell him how to grow in a fashion, anything different than how he made his money, will go over about as well as trying to tell him how to better make love to his wife.
Exactly.
Heard that.
Yeah. And so I think that come across a lot. So finally, when I just stopped listening to them, and I was like, okay, well, I hate to be so cliche, but if I can get these big, nice tomatoes, then it doesn't seem like there's any reason why I wouldn't be able to grow cannabis. And so finally, I just stuck some in. I think I saw on YouTube at that time, there was the only guy on there was Silver Arm, and that was he'd done it, and it came out pretty decent, and he didn't supplement with anything. And I had red worm bins already, and was just using the worm leachate from the bottom of the worm bins and putting that into my aquaponic systems to grow tomatoes and food and stuff for myself to offset my own costs. And so I just threw some clones in there one year, and it came out amazing, especially in the outdoor system. And built a little one indoor to play around with in the wintertime also, and just kind of grew up from there. And then in the big aquaponics group was where I hooked up with Steve, and the different stuff that he'd already been doing with dual root zone. And who was that originally? Was that Vlad, Steve, that was?
Vlad was using it over in Serbia, and then I dug up. It's funny you mentioned that. I actually dug up an article from 1998 from I forget what group it was. Hold on, I think I posted it on the Facebook group. Give me a second. There's an old school growers forum. Anyways,
oh yeah, the first mention of it. Yeah, I saw you posted it.
Yeah, it was on cannabase.com. That's where it was, from way back in '98. So
that's cool. So yeah, that was kind of how I got into it. Was just was growing food first before I grew any cannabis. And once I done that, it was and stopped listening to all of my grower friends that said it wouldn't work. 'Cause literally all of them were like, no, it's gonna be terrible. There wasn't one of them that was even like, hey, it might work, you should try it. So I don't know, maybe that just means that friends.
What happened when you got them to finally try it?
Oh, there was some crow that was eaten, let me tell you. Because it came out amazing. Nobody tells me anymore that you can't do it. So that's probably like the biggest thing that came out of it. But even some of my close friends that are like, when everybody like ponies up to the table at the smoke sesh and everybody like is like, hey, what do you got over there? And you end up smoking like mostly your bud the entire time. Like, to me, that says enough. So that was definitely the turning point. Was that outdoor run? I think was probably that I grew was a Platinum Delight, which was platinum cookies by Blue Power, and it came out like super purple and crystally and dense. I mean, just everything that they said it would never be. And so that for me was like, I don't think I know I haven't bought any, but I don't think I've even like smoked anything that, like, even the stuff that people give me, I might like try a little bit of it. But if I don't know how it's grown, generally I just give it to somebody else who shows up looking for weed. I'm a snob now. I can afford to be, I guess.
So, do you use molasses or any other sugar? And then have you tried anything other than molasses? Maybe experimented with different sugars in your ferments?
Are you talking to me or
what?
So when you do your labs, are you using molasses as well? And then have you experimented with other sugars or anything else in place of that experimentally?
Oh yeah, if we were talking about Kashi making, yeah, we
Yeah.
can use any sugar source, whatever we have would have been around in low. Where I really look at it as it's a survival technology. It's something everyone should know how to do. All of our ancestors knew how to do. I think a lot of our IMOs that we talked about earlier, the indigenous microorganisms, are contained in those quality sugar sources if you get them locally already. So a lot of the bacteria that we would have to culture or go and find, well, they're already present in those. Things like that. What do you want? Well, lots of people ferments with the apples, things like that, so that the sugar and everything are present.
Huh. I never thought of that. That's really cool. So you're saying it's better off just to do your own local ferments from locally sourced fruit and things?
Well, no, I think that what you should do is learn the technology first, whether it be through like KNF or through EM1, the Tirohiga that did I'm forgetting which book has the practical applications. But if you learn how to do it yourself, number one, you'll always have that skill, and so that if you did have to feed yourself in crunch time, you know how. And number two, it will make you kind of have more respect for some of the larger companies out there that provide these materials for you, in that you'll learn through your own acid bacteria serum how important cleanliness is and what it would actually have a shelf life on your product for 2 years, which most of them are required to have. And during the learning process, you can kind of see about some of the forefathers in the industry and what good works they did around the planet. And some of the companies see that they didn't or weren't involved in any of that. And I would always suggest that, if you're going to buy a product, try to pick a product that comes from a company with some good works around the planet. When you give to no. So we could try to make our own Yemen. But why kill the goose that's kind of laid and is laying the golden egg?
Sure, and I think there's a lot of value in being able to just buy a product anyway. I think a lot of people, even like you said, if you want to learn the techniques, that's great. And I feel that same way about a lot of things, like hunting, for instance. I've always been a hunter, since I was very, very young, since I was old enough to hunt, and maybe a little bit before. And that was just a lot because of the the people that I grew up in, the area that I grew up in, but it's not, obviously I don't do that for all of my meat, but it's kind of along that same lines as I enjoy knowing how to provide that stuff for myself. And it gives me an appreciation for what the butcher has to go through to do that. It's the same for, raising chickens for meat or for eggs and what they have to go through to do that. So I think it's kind of along those same lines. And we had Colin on from Mammoth P quite a while ago now, I think, but he talked about some of the things that they go through in some of the same ways you do it, talking about the process that you go through to fine tune it to be really kind of the best that it can be, and not just have it be that sort of DIY, setup. And so like for them, when they create their competitive cultures and they're looking for breeds of bacteria that are stronger than others and breeding those, and they're like 10 or 11 generations deep by the time they get a product to sell, and what a benefit it is to have those things already done, to have the golden egg process laid out for you, I think is definitely along those same lines. And so I agree that you should know how to make it and do as much as you want to on your own, but there's nothing wrong with buying just a better product.
Exactly. Sorry to be short on I agree.
Sorry, I think you're breaking up there, Alan.
Oh, I'm being lived up by my Great Dane dog here. Are you seeing this?
Yeah.
Yep.
I have to ask him. Sorry, guys.
All right.
Yeah, and so why not? If you go to the culture, because you have other works that you're involved with. I don't see anything wrong with buying these probiotics. Some of the people in my own group, they want to be like a completely no bottle culture, and I just don't think that a lot of them understand that all things in moderation.
Right, or even bags, right? I mean, there are. I definitely think there are more responsible ways and less responsible ways of doing things, But I'm definitely also for having options, right? Like I don't want to just narrow it down to be like, here's the one thing you can buy in a bag in order to be responsible. I think it matters what's inside the bottle or what's inside the bag. Like that's like the bottle's not the issue, and I think people in that group definitely kind of lose their way in terms of that, or not only that, but also I feel like there are people out there that don't want anybody to ever make a profit ever, and if you do, then you're just a bad guy. And and I think some of that plays into it a little bit as well. Kind of the crab in the bucket thing, where as soon as you see somebody starting to climb out, you want to pull them back down to pull yourself up, and of course that never works. So, but I do think that's part of the attitude that plays into that as well.
Yep. So have you
shows
kind of, I guess,
and go ahead.
Oh, just a little bit more on what I was saying earlier. So, what are some of the other things you like to tell people to put in their ferments, such as, maybe plant material or, other ingredients for labs that you've experimented with?
That was really spotty. Can you say that again?
Sure. What ingredients have you experimented with lactobacillus ferments, in terms of other plant materials or other ingredients that gave you some kind of interesting or unique effect?
Did we lose that
One?
one?
I think we lost Al for a minute.
Yeah, I think we lost Alan. Okay. Hopefully he reconnects here. Hogmaster, your crickets. Thank you. He has those.
He sits out on the porch.
Yeah, he's a little Asian dude, you know, like you see in the cartoons with the little box crickets. I'm just kidding.
That's me. Can't help it. It's way too nice outside to be sitting inside.
All right. Well, while we're waiting for Alan to hopefully reconnect here, Marty, what have you been up to this week?
What have I been up to? What haven't I been up to? So I sold my house. Basically, I mean, we have an accepted offer, and we still have to go through escrow and all this other crap. But and we were supposed to have our offer accepted on another place, and for the second time, got outbid, I guess. Although I don't know for sure that it was outbid. It was just that it was a cash offer. Was their reasoning behind it? And ours is a loan, obviously. So I don't know. It's more complicated or something. I mean, they still get a check, so it seems like they should not care, but. So maybe they offered him more money or what, but I mean, even this last time we offered 10,000 over asking price, and it was like, what more do you want us to do? So we have an offer in on another place, and hopefully that'll go through. But who knows? I might, if we can't get the terms figured out, I may be homeless for like a week and a half. I'm not sure how that's gonna work out, but yeah. So that's been fun. And then work, obviously, just more computer stuff. And yeah, as far as the grow goes, not really a whole lot going on. I top dressed, like day before yesterday, I think. I don't know. Too busy to remember. But top dressed some castings and filled those up. So I'm in about, week 4, I think now, somewhere in there. And it's going good. Looks pretty good. Had a few bugs on the last check, but really not too many. I only had to pull off like maybe 2 leaves and sprayed some more nukem in a couple of spots, but really canopy looks pretty good. So got everything thinned out. It was pretty bushy through the middle, so I had to go through and trim off a bunch of stuff that I should have trimmed off probably like 2 weeks ago. But grow wise, that's about it. It's getting cold here, so the outdoor systems are starting to slow down, but still getting like lemon cucumbers and various things out of the back. So what do we got? Like green onions and chard and tomatoes, all a shit ton of tomatoes. No more elderberries though. That's all its leaves are dropping, so it's definitely starting to hibernate. Same with the raspberry. So, yeah, fun stuff.
Did Scotty come by the other day?
No, I never heard from him.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's this Sunday.
I think that might be what he meant because he said after the cup. So.
Oh yeah, that would be okay.
That's why I got confused too before, because I was like, wait, the cup's not Saturday. So.
Okay.
Anyway, I think he means he's coming down after the cup, which would be this coming weekend. So we'll see. I'm sure
that's cool.
Got all that shit going on.
Yeah, we all do.
Right. And so then I'm trying to decide which one I want to go to. If I want to go to the cup this weekend, or if I want to go to the Aquaponics Association next month, because I can basically only pick one without the wife killing me. So.
Well, this one's a lot cheaper.
It's a lot cheaper and probably more fun, but possibly more likely to end in my death. So we'll see how that goes. When you have a 4-month-old child and you want to just take off to go to a cannabis cup and leave your wife with 3 kids, that's probably. It just takes a little selling. That's all I'm going to say. It takes a little selling. It's a business trip, right, Steve?
Yep.
Business trip.
Yep. It's a business trip.
I'll bring my business socks.
It's business time.
So what's up with Roger?
Trying to clean up, getting ready to trying to clean up. It's getting to that time when it's cooling down enough to really get out and put a push before it gets, well, we don't get cold till the end of December usually, but I don't know anymore with the way everything's going with this weather. I just don't know. I've had to put some fence building on hold because for those of you out there that don't live around here, I don't know what your lumber prices are going about, but ours increased 300% this week. And all the fence board I was going to buy went from $1.60 to $6 a piece. Well, you can't even buy them like that. You got to buy them in 10 packs. It was weird. I've never seen that ever in my whole life. And it's just sad. So I'm trying to revamp and figure out what I'm going to do on the forum. We're going to do, well, that might be what I do. We're doing some revamping of that and going to move some categories around and try to streamline it a little bit. I always thought it was a little confusing the way it was laid out originally, although it's attracted a whole bunch of people. I just think it's hard to navigate for people that don't really know a lot about growing when they first come. So I think that's what I'm going to be doing is working on our forum a little bit. And I think I'm going to bypass the fall grow season because not being able to buy lumber, I can't put up the hoop houses I was going to do and close the ends in because I can't afford to just take the lumber I've got and do that, since I didn't even look at what 2x are costing after I saw $6 fence pickets, So that's what I'm doing. Woe is me and trying to figure out what I'm going to do next because the plans I had are kind of squashed until lumber prices come back down.
I think that's from the hurricane, or?
Yeah, well, all the hurricanes, we basically already had 2 this year,
You got another one headed towards you.
Yeah, and that it depends on how that hits, whether we get the brunt of that too. Well, in my case, I got some wind damage and stuff like that, but and we had a lot of rain. But overall, we came out of it pretty decent. But on the coast and downtown, there was a lot of damage up and down the coast, all the way up. I'm not sure how far up the damage went into North Carolina, but I mean, even though the Matthew went up to, I don't know what the hell the name of it was now. There so many, which we got hit by Matthew. That was last year. But that hurricane that came up the Gulf Coast of Florida, it kind of went right up through Florida on the west side. It was so big when it got to the panhandle of Florida, it was in Louisiana and South Carolina at the same time. I mean, that storm covered the entire southeast, and it rained like a son of a bitch. And so it flooded the entire southeast, anywhere on the water. I don't know how much people on rivers and all got, but so we're still, there's a lot of people still picking up a lot. There's a lot of people still homeless or, in shelters because of that. I'm not even sure what it's like in Florida. I was down there. I went down and rebuilt homes after Hurricane Andrew back in 1993, I think it was. And I saw what Andrew did. This was worse than Andrew. And I mean, it just kept coming up the land. It didn't even stay. I mean, it was crazy. It's one of the craziest hurricanes, I think, in history. I'm waiting to see curious to see the tally, if that's not maybe one of the most expensive damaging hurricanes in history. I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Well, just on its sheer size, I think it'd have to be close. Just like the square miles it took up was crazy.
Well, just think about the fact, like I'm talking about, a piece of lumber went from $1.60, $1.70 to $6. And like Lowe's, you can't even buy it. They don't even list it in stock. You can't even buy it at Lowe's. There is no fence pickets. Now, why fence pickets? I don't know. I don't know. But well, you know what it probably is that they're not making fence pickets right now. They're making 2x, or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's probably what it's all about. They're making 2x, and they're not cutting things up into 1x6 fence pickets. That's probably the deal. But yeah, it's going to hit. That's just the beginning, and I mean we're coming into that end of the year. I'm very curious to see it. And gas did come down a little bit, but now I'm not sure where that's at because since I'm legally blind, I don't get to drive. You know, that looks nice.
Not too shabby.
I'm not sure what that is exactly because my eyes are a little fuzzy, but look, is that rosin?
No, this would be. I mean, it's an extract, I guess. So it would be a form of BHO, but it's this mix that he does. Steve probably knows more about it than I do. I'm not an extractor by any means, so. But he calls it terp sauce.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So from what I understand, it's basically de-waxed and then recombined with terpenes. Does that make sense, Steve?
Yeah, so they make BHO and then they take extra terpenes from other plants or from other crappier material that they sell, you know, maybe a THC isolate from or a CBD isolate from.
His with the same stuff he runs. So,
Right, but it's a higher ratio when he recombines. He probably also sells THC or CBD isolate as well, yeah? It's the same equipment.
I don't think so, but maybe. I can't answer that question. I don't know, but I do know that he told me that he doesn't add things from other runs. So basically he'll do a run, he separates it, and then just recombines the terps from that material with the BHO. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Sweet. I'm going to make him watch this just so he can see I got it right then.
Now that I've got that press, I think I'm going to stick to pressing for sure.
That thing looks pretty cool, man. You liking it?
It's a lot of fun.
Pressing is cool. We have a new method that we're going to bring up to the cup here. We had time to make a few grams of stuff before we left. And yeah, we'll have some pretty cool this new way that we're doing it. Tommy's actually on his way to pick me up, which is why he's not on the call right now. But he's got some of that. So if anyone's there and wants to try that, we'll have some cool glass and some stuff to try it out on.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to extract it from there, from low temperatures to high temperatures. It's insane.
I just bought a personal little 1 gram rosin forge that you heat up with a torch, and it's getting the guy. And I truly believe it's going to work just as well as the video. He's getting 25 to 30% return, and I mean you can see.
So if you do bubble hash, if you make bubble hash first, and then you do it, you'll get like 80-90% return.
Well, one day I'll have to get me some. I'll have to get some bags, and you'll have to, check me out on it again. Because since I don't have any bags, I don't really pay attention when you guys talk about that, other than you do it. So yeah, I might try that. I probably got some stuff that makes some good bubble. Yeah, I like that idea. But it's I even talked to the guy about doing business with him, and he's real excited about that. He's starting to get a lot of hits on YouTube, and we talked about selling it on the site, and so we got something so I don't want to talk too much about that, other than that it might be a nice little business venture to go in on, and we've already even talked about wholesale kind of situation. So it's kind of neat. I really like it. It's especially good for somebody like an illegal state where you wouldn't want a lot of that laying around.
We prefer the term less than legal.
Yeah, less than legal.
Yeah. So if you were to extract rosin allegedly,
I saw Steve do it on YouTube once.
Hypothetically, if you were to do that. Anyway, this is nice because basically, now I don't know, how much personally I would uptake, but to me it looks like, somebody that doesn't have the tolerance of one of us that have been consuming high quality genetics for a long time. I think it's going to be great because you're getting that great return out of it. And I would say a gram you spend 5 minutes to do a gram, and I would say the average person, that's their medication for a day, and then they don't have a shitload laying around. You just fresh do a, it's a cylinder thing. You put it in and you heat it up and you squeeze it through, and I mean it works freaking awesome. I can't wait to get it because that'll be nice for me. I don't have a big bulky machine laying around, for people to be nosing about. In fact, if you were looked at it in a drawer, you wouldn't even know it had anything to do with cannabis or extracting or anything. So it's really fucking cool. I can't wait to show it to you guys next week. I'll have one by next week.
Was that the one that you sent the pictures of? Was that you or is that Hogmaster? Somebody sent pictures on the chat earlier. Of,
that was me of cooker.
The cooker, yeah.
That's for doing the coconut oil.
Right.
It clamps on the side of the pot and you heat it up. It keeps a steady temperature. You can put it right at 117, 118 degrees to figure it out. And you could do your coconut oil right in the water bath for 5 days instead of tying up your oven.
Dude, I keep looking at my deep fryer going,
Exactly. Well, you can do it with that if you get the temperature right.
Mine's got a little temperature thing. You just set it.
Well, will it get to 117?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then I would think that would work. I don't know, Tommy.
Not ideal, but
I think you'd want to put a little thick screen, like a metal screen or something on the bottom, so it wasn't sitting right on the heating element. So you had some kind of little, like a heat sink kind of thing, and then let the water itself do the cooking. That's what I've been thinking. We're all thinking a lot about this shit all the time now,
Mm-hmm.
Just like
I can't wait to do a butter run.
So, but it works good. Like I said, Amy used it, and she actually, she don't ever want to give me credit for anything, and she used it, and she told me flat out it did help. It took a lot of the pain from her foot. Made it all good.
Yeah.
Used it topically, and it wasn't even done totally correctly. This was done in an oven where it couldn't get down to 117 degrees. So it was cooked. It was cooked a little too hot, but it still works. So I'm not sure. I'm not going to dispute that it has to be at that. So I don't know what the extra 70 degrees, how big of a difference that really makes. Overall though, it did the job of infused the coconut oil, and it worked. At least for her to say it worked and it helped, that's big, because it must have really had some kind of effect. And it was topical.
It just doesn't get the full potential of the material out of the plant.
I guess Tommy'd probably say it doesn't get the highest, the whole percentage of molecules. It's all about the molecules.
Right. Well, I think that I don't know that the temperature would matter as much. I mean, I don't know, I guess, because he was talking about, I'm not just remembering what he said before, he was talking about that the type of oil that coconut oil allows it to bind at different temperatures. You know what? You remember that, Steve? What was he talking about?
For which part?
When he was talking about the difference between coconut oil and like its ability to infuse with coconut oil and then re-deliver it back to your body, and it like works at lower temperatures or fuses at lower temperatures or something like that.
Yeah, you get a more extract. Yeah, you get a wider range, and it just has a better saturation point. You can put more into it.
Saturation point. That's what he was talking about. So I think that part of the reason that coconut oil is so effective is because it has a higher saturation point. And so that's what I was trying to remember. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, I rewatched that today because I was thinking about ordering that device that Hogmaster showed you guys earlier, and so I could start doing my own. And so I went. Well, I was actually posting some of the podcasts that hadn't been posted yet on the forum, and I noted and just I clicked on something, and it just happened to be the one where Tommy and Dorian were on, and they explained the coconut oil process that they came up with. 118 degrees, 5 hours, let it cool all the way down. Squish it all out, put it back in, fill it back up with oil again for 3 days, and all that stuff to be great. And so that was. So I just watched that today. But the one thing now, this is something, since we're on the topic, we wouldn't have normally brought this up, but since we got on the coconut oil topic, the one thing on the video when he talked that night about when he does the decarboxylation, was he didn't say exactly for sure. He didn't clarify what temperature you do the decarboxing at. Is that also at 118?
Well, the trick to that is you want to actually. I just did a video on this like yesterday, literally on my channel. So you can put them in mason jars and then put them in water and boil it, and it'll keep them right in that 212 to 220 range. Real good for decarboxylating, and you do that for about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and then you can also put them in.
Familiar with a hot water bath, right? I mean, it's basically same process. So like that's what that to me was like. Oh, now I get it. You know what I mean? Like, because I don't know shit about extracting, but I do. I've spent a lot of time around people canning and stuff. So that was cool.
Okay, so you're all right. So let Steve go ahead and finish your train of thought. So because I've got it. So it's like canning, though. You bring it to a boil for 45 minutes to an hour, like you're canning. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. And then you can also put it in a Ziploc or a zip. Not a Ziploc, a vac bag. Like a.
Well, I'd go with the mason jar because I've got mason jars, so I would go with that.
It just depends how much you're doing at once, I guess.
So and if I remember correctly, we discussed and clarified that for all you people listening tonight, so you're not having to figure out what the hell we're talking about. You fill the jar up all the way too.
Yep.
You fill it all the way to the top, and then seal the jar. Put it in the water bath for an hour at boiling.
You gotta get it a lot harder to decarboxylate. To answer your question, it's got to get a lot hotter than 117 in order.
Okay, I got you.
Right.
So it's a boiling. Cool.
That's what the boiling is for.
Yeah, that's why you boil it, because then you get it in that 220 plus minus range, and it stays there, and then no chance of burning it. It's real consistent. If you do it over that longer period of time, it's okay. It's just works great.
Right, and then of course he advised us that on that night that then you let it dry, you let it cool down completely, no matter how long it takes. You just take your time. It's not going to be it's going to be like he said, don't plan on using it for 2 weeks. But so yeah, for you people out there, so when you decarboxylating.
Oh no, so he said decarboxylate it and then put it in your slow cooker at 120 degrees for 5 days, I think it was.
Right.
Oh, well, he also said to let it completely cool down.
Yep. But after about an hour, it's reabsorbed the terps. You could throw it in the fridge.
That's okay. That's what I'm talking about. Reabsorbing the terpenes, but it has to cool. Then you put it in the water bath at 118. So that's going to be cool. I can't wait to try that. Especially since Hogmaster found that great device, that looks to me like it's almost, it's for under $100, and you have something you can put in a pot. It doesn't monopolize your oven or anything. You just sit it over there and let it cook.
Yeah, it looks just like a deep fryer. It really does.
Actually, it's just
the heating element.
It's the device clamps on a pot. You just get in the pot.
Yeah, you can get those. It's just a heating element, Yeah,
exactly. It's a heating element, exactly, with a thermostat. I love the range though too. From I can't remember what the low one. He just got back now, but up to 400. So you could actually do a whole bunch of shit with that. I mean, that'd be yeah. So that'd be cool.
I think
that's gonna be great.
360 or something like that. You know what it is, Steve?
What's that? for when
The
THC
decarboxylate
evaporates.
at like 300 and something.
No, you want to do it 220 to maximum 250. You can do it 250 in the oven for 15 minutes, but you're far better off doing it at like 220 or 230 and doing it for like an hour. It'll work
I'm
better.
thinking about vaporizing, I think. That's what I'm thinking.
Vaporizing is 354, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds more like it. Rolling.
That's Fahrenheit. Yep.
We lost Alan, I guess. Huh? The phone went dead or something.
So he said his signal was getting super weak on his side. He was getting less than 1G.
Yeah, he's
Not-
breaking up too, so that makes sense. At least it was for me. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it started getting bad there after a while. You know. Interesting stuff.
So I'm really looking forward to the cup on Saturday. That'll be a lot of fun. Purity Medicinals, which is company that we announced last week, is sponsoring the edible pinata. There'll be a pinata there. It looks like an HID light, and it'll be filled with all kinds of goodies that are cannabis related. So it'll be a lot of fun.
You couldn't do a General Hydro bottle? That'd have been sweet.
Right?
We totally wouldn't get sued. It would be fine.
And then what else was there going on? Oh, Tom, we're entering in some stuff this weekend. We'll have the powder entered in. We'll have our concentrate entered in. I think Fish Ganja guy's entering in his flower. I don't think he's going to be there, but I think he's entering the flower. And then, it'll be a lot of fun. I'm going to try and do either a stream or we'll get some video footage. I know we're going to have Tommy's bringing a 3D camera so we can do 360 video. So if you got a phone or VR, you'll be able to get a really cool experience of what it's like to be at the DGC Cup. So that'll be pretty awesome. We can kind of do a 360 walkthrough, which I think will be pretty dope. And I'm just looking forward to seeing the homies, seeing the crew. If you guys aren't familiar, you check out Dude Grows, dudegrows.com. They have a pretty cool podcast. Marty and I were both on their show on Monday. So that was a lot of fun. Marty talking about the woes of Oregon, and I was talking about a little bit about Purity Medicinals. What else is there from this week? I had some videos up this week. I did a little short video on watercress. I also did a video on decarboxylation, which we mentioned earlier. And I think I have one other video to do to post that I did. I'll be hopefully having some other video content here before too long. I'll be back on the road again quite a bit here in the next couple of weeks because of different conventions. The Vegas show's coming up. There's a convention in San Francisco coming up. Just all over. So it'll be a lot of fun. And the Aquaponics conference.
You right?
Oh yeah, and then all the new regulations that are going to come down. I think one of the counties I'm working with is supposed to come down this week, supposedly. Yeah, all the fun shit.
Santa Cruz, I think, is the one that's expected to go first, right?
Santa Cruz or San Mateo, one of the two. I forget. I don't even remember which one. I just have all my emails set up so that whenever it goes out, I get an email about it. Because otherwise, it's impossible to stay on top of.
Right. And so, that same shit's going down in California. It was written into 64, so I guess it shouldn't really be a surprise. But, every city and county now gets to decide whether or not they want to be prohibitionist, and it's just ending up in more prohibition. And
yep. I had a discussion with somebody on Facebook, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's so good they passed Amendment 64," and it was like, no. Actually, it's not. They banned the cultivation for medical patients all over the state. Totally screwed up patients' rights. Totally screwed up dispensaries, productions, fucked up the zoning, caused just a numerous amounts of issues. And most of the people that are making these ridiculous statements aren't even based in the United States. And it's like, well, yeah, it looks great from over there, doesn't it? You don't actually are here dealing with this crap. So it's especially with the regulatory structure and allowing townships to have any kind of say in this is complete bullshit.
You know, I really I don't think it should be any. Obviously, I'm against prohibition at all, but the fact that it gets to be at both the city and the county level, and that they're able to, all they put in is reasonable reasonable regulation. Reasonable to who? Reasonable to my neighbor, because that means I have to give his nose a safe place where he can't smell my flowers, right? I mean, now he can have all the horses he wants, you know. So that's the part where I feel like people just don't understand that it's not it's not nearly as good as they think it is. That's just what it comes down to. Especially 64. You know, we talk about it so much. I talked about it in the Duke Grow show. You know, the same thing that happens, but it just allows them to be a fucking mafia. They show up at your house and they say, "Hey, you got some nice plants. Be a shame if somebody came and tore them all out. You should pay us some money."
Yep.
That's what'll happen. And it's really no different. I call them the Jackson County Mafia. So I'm sure I'll get all kinds of shit for that. But that's just what it seems like to me. That's what happened to me. That's my experience. They showed up my door, knocked on the door, said, "Here's what's up." And I just don't think anywhere else do you see that. Nowhere can I decide what my neighbor does with his property. It doesn't happen. If I don't like rose bushes, I can't complain about his rose bushes smelling, right? Even if I'm allergic to a plant, I can't make a neighbor take it down. You can't do that. And that's talking about your physical health. So it just doesn't make any sense to me, why it even happens. And especially right now where I'm in the middle of trying to move and do all of this shit, all because of that, essentially. It sucks. Or Alan was talking about, what it's like to have your rights taken away in your backyard. Well, yeah, I can grow food, that's fine, but I do know what it's like to have my rights taken away in my backyard. And I have my rights taken away to grow my fucking plants in my own backyard. And it blows. That's what it feels like. None of y'all like it. And I know not everybody, it sucks that some people don't get access to anything. And I end up feeling bad because I can still grow indoors. I still have some sort of legal system in order to be under. And there's plenty of states that don't have anything, that are less than legal, as Steve calls them. And so obviously that sucks, but it's not really the point. I feel like we all have to keep in mind that prohibition in general is what we're against. And Prop 64 is prohibition disguised as legalization.
Yep.
Profit mongering.
Yep, absolutely. And just like I said, over half the states ban cultivation. That does not sound like legalization to me in any way, shape, or form.
Exactly, because they legalize it and then they give them a right to say you can't grow it here.
Exactly.
So that's a total contradiction of the whole plan in the first place. That's
stripped away all of our protections from 215 that people like Dennis Perone fought for. It's fucking bullshit.
I tell you, they kind of do that same thing in Maine. Again, don't get to talk with Dummy enough, but he was just cruising with the med thing going on there, and he was a caregiver for some people, and then all of a sudden they made it recreational, and they're kind of going. Sounds to me like, and of course they didn't have a plan at all, and it looks to me like they're going on the same road that's going on over there in the West Coast. Now they don't know what the hell's going on right now. Right now he's got both. He's got recreational and he's still got his medical. But it's in some places where they I guess out there they're almost like you said, they're well, in Marty's case it's because he can't grow in his backyard, that he can't provide people. But like you said, a lot of those places where they've legalized it for recreational, they've ruined the medical. And you know what? On the outside looking in, to me, it almost sounds like a typical government, corporate, industrial complex thing where they're doing that to ruin the medical marijuana business, to make it recreational and wild and woolly, so that the freaking pharmaceutical companies can get up there and try to figure out some way to rob us of what we've been fighting for decades.
Well, I think it's, you know, it's the owners or the investors of the pharmaceutical companies. They're just doing the same thing in a different industry. And so, you know, I call them vulture capitalists, and they come in and they ruin markets, and then they buy up equipment at rock bottom prices. They buy up, like in Washington's case, they buy up licenses at rock bottom prices from growers that can't meet requirements that already got licensing. So Washington only handed out a certain number of licenses, and Washington's medical program never had home grow in there from the beginning. So they always had sort of this weird program, in the same way that like Illinois and Florida had these weird programs that never really got enacted for a while. And a lot of them, like Illinois, has only state-run grows. You can't have any, you know, like they're all government indoor like grows. And I know this, I think this changed recently so that they have more licensing that they handed out or something, but there was a very limited amount for a while. You had to go buy it at the dispensary. As a patient, you only had like, you could only get like an ounce a month. Was like you had a limit, and the dispensary had to track how much you bought and like all of this other bullshit. And you had to, like, if you had special needs, you had to apply to get more. Like if you were like an actual cancer patient, obviously you need more than an ounce a month. Like how you gonna make RSO on an ounce a month? Like what is that? And so you know, like you have to go apply for all this special stuff, and then they, you know, like there's so many like just bullshit medical programs out there that it sucks that or maybe it doesn't suck, maybe it's on purpose, that all of these really successful programs got recreational and then got them shut down. So like I just feel like there's a big conspiracy theory aspect to it, like you're talking about, Roger, like the same stuff they do in different industries. They tank stuff so they can buy up capital. They can do all kinds of different stuff. They can take out competition. You know, they can make money off of real estate zoning, like you talked about. I can't grow for other people here. That shut down tons of growers in counties across Oregon, and even after that, like so much competition just gone. And it's not just that I can't grow outside. I could only grow for myself or somebody else that lives here. I can't grow for anybody outside, even if I grew indoors. And I can still only have 12 plants, as opposed to before legalization, I could have 72 plants, and I could have them outdoors as long as I had a fence around them. And I had relatively, you know, they had some regulations, like you had setbacks from the edge of the property, but it was like 50 feet, I think, or maybe 75 feet. Whereas now I think it's 300 feet. So there's all kinds of different stuff that's come in, and all of it points to shutting down smaller people,
right,
cutting out competition, favoring people that have money. Like if you want to buy property, you know, people are paying cash and are having an advantage. People that that are essentially moving in or have outside money or big funding get an advantage there, because somebody that's a small grower has probably already invested most of the money they have in where they've been and are relying on having to sell their house. I can tell you firsthand, because that's what happened to me. And so I just think that all of that, you know, like maybe it just feels more personal to me because it happened to me, but I do feel like you see so many other people, and it's just such a coincidence that so many people get shut down, right, as legalization comes in, and a program that existed 8 years or more before that, and nobody needed smell ordinances before that. You know what I mean? Like why do we all of a sudden need to provide these safe spaces for people? It just doesn't add up for me. The same council
special snowflake syndrome is spreading.
That could be it. possible. It's like a viral infection.
Yep.
So I don't know, but it just seems to me like with everything favoring recreation, it's almost as cheap to get a tier 1 rec license as it is to go through everything you need to go through in order to get a max medical grow. So in the state now, a max medical grow is only 6 patients. That's only 48 plants. Okay, so to grow 48 medical plants is almost the same cost as to grow a half acre of recreational cannabis. Think about that for a second. How many plants can you fit into a half an acre?
Shitload.
Okay, way more than 48. So when you start talking about disadvantaging or being at a disadvantage in the medical program, that's huge. Like even if you just want to stay medical and be a producer in the medical, because it's separate industry, right? If you're a dispensary, you have to carry both medical and recreational licensing, so you have to pay the state for both of those in order to sell both of them to both markets. And a lot of them are going recreational because for a dispensary, guess what? It's cheaper to be recreational than it is to be medical. So, and a lot of them are saying, why should I do both? People are going to come into the store anyway and buy it anyway. They can carry all the same products. There's only a few different things that a medical thing can grow or can carry in the dispensary that recreational can. But for the most part, it's the amount that you can sell per purchase. But really, it just works in the advantage of the seller anyway, because now you have to come back again and you have to buy more, right? You can't buy it as much, and you can't buy wholesale when you go in. You can only buy so much. So I think that's probably, all of it. Everything favors recreational. You can't ignore the fact that everything gets slanted towards that and away from medical, like not just in favor of, but also puts medical at a disadvantage. And I think you'll see it completely disappear, like Washington, who just doesn't have medical anymore. And I think last year I gave Oregon 2 more years. So I think it's got about a year left still. That's probably, I'm thinking I'm going to stick with that. I know enrollment's way down. Not nearly as many people are enrolling because you basically only get 2 plants. Starting at the end of this year, you can't have your medical and your recreational plants at the same. So right now, I could have 2 medical cards and 4 recreational plants that I'm supposed to have by right? So that's 16 plants that I'm supposed to be able to have. Okay, but now their latest set of regulations is taking effect coming up this year. You can't have that 4 at the same place. So if you get a card, that means you can have 6 plants instead of 4. So you're essentially buying 2 plants for $200 for the just for sending in the application for the thing. You have to pay for the doctor's visit, which is probably going to be another $100 to $150 depending on how long you have to go there, and you have to have documentation done on whatever your ailment is that you're applying for. So you had to see a doctor previously to that too to get all that stuff done. So by the time you pay for all that stuff, it's like $400 to $500 depending on who you've gone to and what you've seen. So all that to just grow 2 more plants, I think they're just trying to discourage people from even enrolling, and it's already way down. So as soon as it goes down, it loses funding. As soon as it loses funding, it becomes less efficient. As soon as it becomes less efficient, they want to cut it. And it's the same chopping block as every other state that's done it so far. So,
wow.
I don't know.
700 to 900, depending on setbacks, with 5-foot spacing. Half an acre. Half an acre. 700 to 900 plants with 5-foot spacings, and depending on your setbacks and stuff.
Yep.
So
900. If you just planted a whole half acre in the middle.
Right. 900. Because I got 30 by 30.
Yep.
30 by 30 with 5-foot spacing. Yep.
Yep. So compared to 48, it's something like you know,
That's
the cost,
1,800% difference. 1,800%.
yeah, for 20% more in cost. So it just, you know, most of the people that you talk to now are going, well, you know, I just need to go wreck. You know, like, you know, what do you want me to do? It's math. And you can't argue with them. Like, as a grower, like, yeah, I get it. It's math. You can fit 900 plants. Like, why wouldn't you do it? But you just feel bad for the patients that you used to provide free medicine to.
Because then you'd get that, hey, we're the pot mafia and you're going to pay us money or those plants might get ripped up.
Right. And then
That's
it gives
right.
everybody the opportunity. Any prohibitionist that you live next door to now has the ability to just call them up and say, hey, go harass these people because I don't like them growing their pot on their property. Where else can you do that? Where else can you be like, hey, you know, like, I don't like that on your property over there. And you can just call somebody up and have them come intimidate the shit out of them until they take it down.
It's ridiculous.
You got anything? Because I can't think of any other time where that can happen. Like, unless a crime's being committed, like somebody's getting mugged, you know, like.
What you gotta do is find like the worst smelling outdoor plants and then just plant those.
You know, I thought I'd go the other way. I was like, I'll plant all sweet plants. Somebody else said this too, right? I think was it Tom that was on the other day too? Like the Starfighter OG and the Platinum Delight cookies and like all those are just like super sweet smelling stuff, like not skunky at all.
Right, he said don't grow skunk.
Yeah, no skunk. That's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Shishkaberry, like pretty much all the ones I grow are just like sweet and fruity and smell great. Like, so like, I know it's not the smell, it's that he just doesn't want me to grow it. He thinks that I shouldn't do it and he can impose his will on my backyard. Something that he would totally be opposed to otherwise, right?
Sounds like an asshole.
That has been established. He's definitely an asshole. Yeah, the neighbor on the other side, when they moved in, they put in 4 plants out back too. He had them shut down too.
Wow. What's he walking around looking in people's backyards?
Motherfucker used to work for the county.
What you need to do is
Oh, well, there you go.
All he's got to do, he probably texted him. He probably didn't even call him. No, wait, he probably doesn't text anybody. He probably called him on his fucking rotary phone.
what you gotta do is you gotta sneak in at night and just plant like 90 plants in his backyard and call the cop. That's what this guy deserves. You gotta load up, make his backyard look like a Christmas tree farm.
I need some really quiet drones. I think we can make this happen. Some drones, some really dry air pots.
Right?
We can do this. Although we just streamed this live, so I think maybe we can do it now.
Anyways, it's definitely be worth it. What you should do is at least leave one plant in the center of his backyard as a parting thing when you leave, even if it's just in veg. Or
Maybe
like
I should go like
on his doorstep with a little bow.
you guys ever see that movie Grumpy Old Man?
Yeah.
Where he hit the dead fish in his car? I got access to some fish.
It's a dead fish. Yeah, it's funny how that does come up sometimes. I got a neighbor like that too. And believe it or not, yeah, I've thought about that. Wouldn't it be funny if I opened up one of those little vents under the house and threw a fish down in there?
I've been looking for a reason to knock the shit out of old Donald Trump anyway. So I'm thinking I could take him out and just lob him up on top of his shed. Right? Like just toss it over the fence, like up on top of the roof. And after a while, it just starts stinking to all hell.
Should you pour a little milk? Pour a little milk inside. So it gets right quicker. Yeah.
Okay, well, we can't do that one either.
What do you got going on there, Hogmaster?
A lot of pressing and got a couple plants going. Got me a 4-foot scrog, OG Kush going, and I got me an Amnesia Haze going. Just started a Northern Lights the other day. Besides that, I've been doing a lot of pressing and been on ilovegrowingmarijuana.com, moderating on there.
You getting that press dialed in, man? How's it going for you?
It's great. I love it. It was dialed in within the first 2 hours of ownership.
Cool.
Really, that is. You got a great deal on that too.
Well, I got a great friend on the forum who has one as well, and I got to give a shout out to Country John. He rocks. Country Boy. He also has a press, and it was fun going through the processes with him while he was trying to dial his in. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And then Dummy's got one too, but we don't, we hadn't really got to talk with him much about it because he's going to school. So I can't wait for him to get a break from school so we can hang out a little bit, man.
I'm sure they'll kick him out in no time.
That's a smart son of a bitch. I tell you what, I bet he's enjoying it. He's been wanting to do something like that. I mean, we talk because what he did before was a lot of his knowledge came from what do they call it? Monitoring college courses and botany and stuff.
Right.
Where he didn't get any college credit really. He just went in there and monitored it and he learned it all. But he just now he's come to the point in his life and he's still at the age where he's got a whole lifetime ahead of him really, other than the fact that he is, fairly ill. So, but hopefully he'll hang in there, and he wants credentials, because he really, he's passionate about having his business and doing, having his labs up there. And I can't wait to get to go up there. I'm dying to, it's almost easier to go to California than it is to go to Maine where he lives. I tell you, it's a long way up there. I was going to take a bus, and then I found my buddy said he's from Boston. He goes, well, it's like 13 hours, or like it's still 13 or 16 or I don't know. It's either 18. It's 18 hours to either from here to Boston or 18 hours from Boston to where Dummy lives in Maine. And when you think about Boston, you think you're pretty much up north, and it's still over half a day to get to his house in Maine. So from Boston. So it's up there, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Oh my, it takes 3 days to freaking drive up there. So anyway, I don't know. I just sorry to go ranting on about it, but I just miss my buddy. We used to, back before he started going to school, got sick and started going to school, we hung out a lot. So learned a lot from him too about aquaponics, man. Looking at his systems and all, or his systems are unique, and it's really cool to see that kind of thing like that. And he's really dedicated to it too. I mean, you guys know that from talking to him. You guys know him for quite a while before I met you guys, and then he got me on the show. He's the reason I'm on this show. So, so it's kind of cool. It's nice when he drops in. He's about due. Hadn't it been about 2 or 3 weeks? He's been dropping it about once a month since he been in school, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think he was about like maybe the third or fourth person I ran into who'd done aquaponics before. Because like I said, there was Silver Arm was the first one I ran into, and Steve was the second one I ran into, and then Aquaponic Dummy, I think through Steve, maybe, or maybe it was just I found him on YouTube also. I don't remember, but he was he's obviously been doing it a while too. So, and like you said, he's got his own setup there with his giant pipes and super high pressure valves and all that stuff, and it's really cool. I love that. Like he's like you said, he's so dedicated to it. Like it's really infectious, I think. But it's definitely a cool setup, and like you said, it's unique in that he's got those big drain pipes and now
culverts.
he's going to go with the fog ponics, right? Isn't that what he's setting up now?
He said he was gonna, yeah. That's the last thing he was trying to dial in a little bit. And again, I would know, but again, I don't get to talk to him hardly at all anymore. He's just not available, and he's not. My understanding is he's not even at his store, a lot anymore.
Right.
Ever since the issues developed a few months ago. My understanding is he's been staying with friends, friends that can help him get around in emergency, get to the hospital and stuff like that, and I don't want to go too deep into that. And I only know so much about it because he wanted to wait till, I think he wanted to wait till we could have, like, it's not anything unusual for us to have had a 2 or 3 hour conversation, so he just wanted to tell me that, he was doing a lot better now, and he made it through a real rough patch, and he still hasn't really spilled the beans, but we know he's got diabetes really bad, and we know he's got a really bad messed up back from working at UPS, and that he can't sit for more than an hour. He's got to either lay down or stand up, so because I talked about driving somewhere, and he said, I can't drive that long. I can't get in the car and drive. So I got to stop every hour, hour and a half. And at that point, to get back in the car, still it's so painful, So I don't know if he got anything done with his back anymore, but I mean, they created a whole policy at UPS, to hear him tell the story. He wanted to go back to work, and his injury actually made a global UPS policy about back injuries and whether they could come back to work and what, and stuff like that. And so it's kind of wild, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that when we get. I want to go up there because he's still not finished, but I've had some really good tours of that. I think of it as the catacombs. It's like he's got these room after room after room after room, the catacombs, because it's in the basement too.
I had to watch his videos like 2 or 3 times sometimes just to figure out. Like, I almost wanted to draw his floor plan. Like, what's all going on here? And I don't know if he'll ever be done with it. Like I mentioned before, I'm pretty sure last time he was on, he was talking about dialing in that fog Ponics setup, and he was going to go with that and try it out. And so I think that's going to be cool. And I just don't, or maybe that's just what I think about myself. Like I mentioned, I think last week when Jeff was on, I've never grown the same way twice. Like, all of my setups have literally been different. So I can't really say too much about that because I change mine all the time too. And he kind of does the same thing, but he's pretty consistent with his aeroponics there for a while. But now he's like, nope, we're going fog. I'm like, okay, sweet dude.
I think he's still going to have all the aeroponic setups he's already got, I believe. The fog ponics is a system in a new room.
Right.
But what's cool is, when I first saw his stuff, he was using those big like $6 to $10 lids, like for 5-gallon bubblers, with the big net pots built into them, molded in, and he was using those on the top of those culverts. And then, so he's got the store, right? He's got the fish store, hydro store, whatever you call it, the fish store, grow supply store. And so he had all these big giant smart pots, like 30 and 40 gallons. So he cut them all up and made little pots to fit in those black tops to make his dual root zone. And that's how he did the dual root zone. He took and put it, because his root zone, as was yours in Hydroton, his is dangling in aeroponics.
Right.
Aeroponic type system, all right, with sprinklers, spinning sprinklers. So he had the bucket lids, those big black bucket lids, and he cut up, he took all the smart pots in the store and cut them up and made these little baskets to put in his bucket lids. And filled it with Ocean Forest and Happy Frog. That's how he started it. And so he put the plants in that, and then the roots would grow out into aeroponic, and he supplements it up there in the top in the dual root zone system. So that's a little bit different way. I love the way you showed it. It finally, you know, because I was thinking you guys had like a solid bed running like a bucket or something like that, or a big pot, you know, filled with the hydroton in the bottom and then a divider. Because I was even thinking of that today, how you showed that. Because I originally, when it was first described to me, I thought the dual root zone was like you had this ebb and flow thing with a divider, and then the whole thing was like a medium, like a soil or soilless medium on top. But it's not, you know. Or do people actually do it that way also?
Well, you can. I think it depends on what you want to do, really. Like, if you wanted to put, like, say, you know, a different type of media like cocoa on the top, right? And you could do that, but you would probably end up just having to supplement more, because by adding like a living soil in there, you know, you can amend it with stuff like I use langbronite or different stuff that you would normally, you know, any of your dry amendments that you can mix into your soil, and that allows you to essentially not really have to feed all that often. Like, you don't really have to feed teas. Like, without dual root zone, I probably feed teas twice a week. But with dual root zone, I can top dress twice a cycle, right? So what I do is I leave about this much on the top of the pot when the plants are still in veg. And then I'll come in right when they go into flower, and I'll put a layer in about half of that so that it's not quite to the top of the pot. And then I'll come in probably about 3.5 weeks into flower, and I'll fill and top dress all the way up to the top of the pot. So that way I can leave, you know, leave some more to put in. And that'll be, you know, I could not feed any tea after that if I didn't want to, and be able to supplement there, especially if, like, on this cycle now I have a larger soil layer, right? I have larger pots than I had on my previous runs. So previously I fed more tea even with the dual root zone, because my root zone was pretty small and I didn't have that much amended in there. I didn't really add too much there. I was still adding everything through teas. So this run's a little bit different in that I amended soil with the nutrients and put it in the dual root zone, and then top dressed it twice in flower. And I really haven't done much besides that. So this is slightly different feeding schedule, I guess, than what I've done before, because I have a larger pot for my dual root zone. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I just want to say I hate cocoa, so I would never use cocoa. That'd be a pain in the ass. That'd just be something more you have to deal with. That's the way I look at cocoa. It always ends up being something you have to deal with. I like the idea of using an organic soil or a nursery mix or something to start with, and then, like you said, add your ferments and stuff like that. That sounds like the way to go for me, because I use Pro Mix a lot. So, you know, so to me, that's how I would probably start, because then I kind of have a benchmark from having the knowledge of doing several grows in the last couple years. And well, I've been using Pro Mix for a long time. In fact, I didn't really use Pro Mix to grow cannabis until the last year and a half or so, where I started doing experiments and found it to be a great way of going, you know, because well, I was doing a lot of experiments and stuff, and I just found it to be it's like a good place to start. And then you add what you add to each one. You want to do side by sides. And then I started having really good grows. Really, I even thought my quality got better, but I think it has a lot to do with kind of having a regimen from doing the experiments for teaching people on the forum, you know, because like you said, you always do it different. Well, I'm always doing stupid shit to my plants, you know, at the risk of my yield in order to teach somebody something, you know. But I don't mind. I've never really gotten any shitty pot or anything. I mean, it's always been pretty good either way. I mean, I've killed some I've killed some plants, and you know, but I mean, I know why I killed them. So that's the reason I pushed the limits. You know, I did a total rookie grow about a year and a half ago, where I abused the crap out of them. I water stressed them. Hell, I actually killed 2 seedlings because I water stress and neglect, and I showed all this in pictures what it looks like, because people are always going, my seedlings are dying, or I went over and then, so I try to find out exactly, I try to do different things to see if I could, how much they'll take, and then I go ahead and I grow the plant, and like I didn't pH or anything. I did like a newbie that I can't afford pH pens, and never, or you get the guy that comes on the farm and goes, I've been growing for 15 years and I've never pH'd nothing. What are you going to say to that? Except I just don't answer the questions anymore. But if they take that kind of attitude, I'm sorry guys out there, but you know who you are. Now it threw me off track, but so what I did was I actually did this grow where the only pH they got was the buffer that was in the nutrients. Like I did a side by side between Fox Farm, the trio,
Right.
and Botanicare, which I used Pure Blend Pro, and then I used the CNS 17 for bloom and for the ripe at the end, and then I did it against with our flower power that we sell, and all I did was I mixed them up, and I found that almost all of them buffered. It buffered the pH of the solution between 6.4 and 6.7, which is arguably high for Pro Mix. Some people will tell you can't do it that high, but I didn't do nothing to it. I just did it that way. And then when I watered it, I used my well water, which is 7. It's neutral.
Nice.
It's about 200 parts per million. I know it's got copper in it and chlorine and whatever else that you normally have in well water. I've never had it tested, but and a little sulfur. Well, anyway, I watered that without even pH in it because I was doing like the total freaking. I'm not using any grow expertise here. I'm just gonna put these plants in this. And well, I did my regular, starter cube, 1 gallon, and then the 5 gallons. For indoor, I think 5 gallons all you need for indoor. And I mean, you could push 8 gallons, but I think you're wasting medium personally. But depends on what I guess the size. If you got shitloads of lights in this big room with shitloads of high intensity lights, maybe you could go 8-10 gallons. But to me, it's just a waste of medium. You end up with all this medium. Roots are all down here in this big bucket because the roots are going to go down and then spread around. So, but I'd never had it. I never pH'd it or anything. I got a pound. I got a pound and a half out of 2 plants, out of 2 OG Kush. I got 3/4 of a pound from each plant, and I never pH'd them or nothing. I just wanted to prove how adaptable. The experiment was not to show people you don't have to do it right or take more time and effort. It was to show them how resilient the cannabis plant is. Even though I took no precaution to pH or do anything like that, I was able to have a very successful grow. I thought under a 600-watt lamp, 2 plants, a pound and a half, I was pretty happy. Are you still there?
Oh yeah, we're here.
Okay. Sometimes you get so still, I thought your screen froze. All right. So I mean, it came out to where, and it wasn't again to promote, don't take the precautions and be proactive about growing the right way and stay within parameters and the variables that you need to stay in. It was really about showing people how resilient and adaptive the cannabis plant is, no matter how much you abuse it. See, and so I was very happy with that. And then I did the side by sides, and so, but that's where I would go, getting back to the aquaponics. So having been experimenting with this and having success in these different ways of each time I do the grow a little different too, I would be perfectly. And I'm going to set it up soon, but there's a million things to do. So I really don't have space right now, especially now.
Mix, right?
Huh?
You say you have Pro Mix, right? That's what you normally use. You have some Pro Mix.
Right. I used to do hydro and make my own soils and mediums and stuff, and I did a lot of hydro. And I decided to start trying to use Pro Mix, and I'm getting pretty well. Some people say Pro Mix. Some people argue it's true hydroponics. because it's soilless. So basically they say treat it just like hydroponics. It's a debate out there. I tell everybody, everybody's going to grow their own way. You've got to learn your own way, and learn your own, do your own experiments, and have trial and errors, and screw shit up, or you're really never going to know what you're doing. So,
right. Do you have red worms? Did you mention before? I think you were talking about getting a red worm bin, or getting some red worms. Did you?
I talked about maybe having a worm farm, but I was more about I've been wanting to get fish and stuff like that. Right. But now with the wood crisis, I don't see how I'm going to start because I have all the stuff I was going to build a hoop house specifically for starting an aquaponics grow. And then you frame it up on the ends and double poly insulate it, right? Blow some hot air in there in the winter, and then 10 months of the year it'll be great, but it's not going to work out like that now. So I don't have the space at this point to start in aquaponics. But if I did, I think I would do your dual root zone. I'd start with Pro Mix because I know it's a good base. And then I would use your ferments and your labs and stuff like that. Right. I definitely think, to hell with cocoa. I think what you guys are doing is the perfect way to do it. Just from,
If I were you, I would start with like 70% Pro Mix and like 30% like Malibu compost or castings or something like that.
Worm casting.
Yeah, castings.
Okay, well, I could do that. Yeah, that's good. 70-30 with worm castings. That sounds great. Yeah,
I would just start there, and you can start feeding it. Kind of see how the plants go. But I think there's all kinds of different stuff you can put in the dual root zone. I'm sure Steve has got a whole list. Actually, I'm pretty sure Steve has a whole spreadsheet of stuff you can put in the dual root zone.
Oh yeah, for sure, no doubt about it. Well, actually, when I think about it, I probably could do some kind of dual root zone thing, because I probably could build a very small setup. I might be able to do that. Not what I was planning, and I think that's where I'm getting at. I can't do what I was planning.
Well, you're a pepper guy. Grow some peppers.
Huh?
I said you're a pepper guy, right? Grow some peppers.
Yeah. Oh well, I could do that. No, I'm just saying I can't do what I'm planning as much, because I was going to grow peppers with it and tomatoes, but I can't do as much with it as far as growing the big system that I wanted to build. But I might be able to do a 1 or 2 plant aquaponics indoor system. I might be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
That might be pretty cool. I got enough lights to do like 4 or 5 different little grow areas, from my accumulation of I got old lights, new lights. And
nice. Well, so it would work.
So I see Hogmaster made it back. Well, what time's it getting to be? I actually turned my life around sleep-wise lately. I did a 4-hour whenever I got tired, until all of a sudden I was going to bed between 11 and 2 in the morning and getting up like at 6 or 7 in the morning. And today I got up at 7. So I'm that East Coast guy that is pretty freaking late tonight. Is it time to wrap up? Or Steve, you got any big announcements to make tonight? Or not to be trying to run the show or nothing, but
No, just we'll be at the show this weekend, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, is there anybody?
The show has cost me a little bit of hardship, but we won't really get into that.
This show?
No, tonight? Not the show. The edibles I made for this weekend got me in some trouble. So.
Oh,
I see.
Did
not any real trouble. Just
what's wrong with the show, asshole?
No.
So, do we have any chat questions tonight? Did we run everybody off already?
Not too many people in chat tonight. Dutch was here. I don't know if he's still here or not. He was talking about Michigan. Unless I'm lagging. I grew some. Says cheers. What's up, I grew some?
Jeremy and Growing Green. But yeah, there was a lot of people who didn't show tonight that are normally on the show. So.
Well, I mean, once
okay.
You have Tom Alexander 1 week and 2 weeks later Jeff Lowenfels, I mean, we started off a little slower tonight. Then people probably said, "Where's
They know a lot of people know Alan. It's all good.
Oh no,
He lost
Alan
his
was
internet
cool.
connection.
Then he got cut off. It was a bummer because I
Yeah.
was getting into it.
I should
I
have
thought
posted in the PFA. That's what I should have done. We probably had a lot more people.
Yeah. You bum. I'm just kidding.
Well, we had a little bit of feedback. There's been a couple people, I don't know what they're calling themselves when they're in chat, but we've had a little bit of feedback, not a whole lot, but 2 or 3 people talking about they evidently watching it. You know, they're trying to identify us, you know, figure out who we are. And, you know, they were even asking why one of our other moderators wasn't on the show. And it was like, well, it's not our show. I mean, you know, we're panel, but you know, it's not the forum show. We're just the guys from the forum are on the show. You know?
Yeah.
So,
alrighty. Well, yeah. If you guys are around, hold on. I'll pull up the. Actually, Marty, why don't you give your stuff and while I'm looking this up.
Oh yeah, so check us out on the Aquaponic Facebook growers group.
Yeah, Aquaponic Cannabis Growers on Facebook.
Aquaponic Cannabis Growers Facebook group. And my channel is AP Meds. Definitely check that out. Have the class coming up with Steve, with the online class in conjunction with his in-person class at Ouroboros. So that's going to be cool. Check out Purity Medicinal's website. It's got some sweet pictures from yours truly on there. And it's a really cool website. You can see Charlie doing the shocker. Check it out. You'll see what I mean. I sent it to Steve the other day to cheer him up. Got a laugh out of him. So yeah, check out the website. It's pretty funny, and a couple of cool pictures on there. And yeah, I can't think of anything else that's going on right now. Yeah, that's about it.
And so if you guys are interested, come out to the Northwest Cannabis Club in Portland, Oregon. It's on 1195 Southeast Powell Boulevard on Saturday. It's 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Yeah, come out and support us. Come hang out. A bunch of the DGC will be there. You'll be able to smoke there. We'll have a competition. We're going to be entering in the competition. We'll also have a booth there for Purity. It'll be pretty fun. So.
Right on.
Yep.
awesome.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, but that's $30, I think, at the door. If memory serves me right. Don't quote me on that though. Yep, like Marty was saying, we have the class on the 21st and 22nd, and check out my YouTube channel. I'll put in Ponics. Has a bunch of stuff. I've been uploading some more video lately. So, and what about you, Roger?
Well, I'm doing my thing at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com, but I wanted to mention because last week, well, I don't know if I mentioned it till after the show, but we talk about our flower power nutrients quite a bit, and if you want to check them out, you go to ilovegrowingsupplies.com and click on through and buy a starter pack or whatever. I think you'll love them. They're coming out of the Netherlands. It's great stuff. And also, I'm going to be probably showing a nice personal little small rosin forge next week, and we're probably going to be selling that on the site too. So look forward to that. I think everybody will love that for something you don't have to lug around a big machine or anything, and you can get some dabs in less than 5 minutes and be a real happy kind of guy. So we're looking forward to announcing that next week.
All right. And what about Hogmaster? I think you already mentioned your stuff, right? Or
yeah, you can find me at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com.
All righty. And be sure to check out Alan's links. They're in the description. It's growkashi.com. And then we didn't get a chance to talk to him about his magazine, or the magazine he's working with, which is Skunk Magazine. Or you can check him out over at Probiotic Farmers Alliance on Facebook. So. Alrighty, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week. still in talks with. We'll get Ed on here in the next. We weren't able to get him on in September, but we will get him on. Part of it's just scheduling with him, so he will be available. It's taking us a little longer than we had hoped. So, and working on some other cool guests for you guys. So, alrighty, see you guys on Saturday. I'll probably do some kind of live stream with Marty and some of the other guys. So, we'll see you guys then. Take care. Thanks.
All right, y'all.
Yeah.